Hello, everyone. It's great to have you today with us on our Welcome to session. My name is Hani, and I am an Education USA advisor in the Czech Republic. And today we have a special guest, Regan, who is a Fulbright grantee currently teaching English in Děčín. Hello, Regan. Regan is originally from Minnesota, so today's welcome session will be Welcome to Minnesota, and I'll leave it up to you now.
Yes. Like Hani said, I am originally from Minnesota, and I also attended university in Minnesota. So different parts of the state, but I'm really excited to talk to you all about Minnesota and some different college options in my state. So to start, I'll just give you a general overview of where Minnesota is. You can see it's in the northern part of the country in a region called the Midwest. So the Midwest also includes states like Wisconsin, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, all the way down to Missouri are all considered to be part of the Midwest region of the United States. Just some overview points about life in Minnesota. Minnesota has a population of 5.7 million people. The largest city in Minnesota is Minneapolis, and you can see a picture, well, actually both pictures include Minneapolis, but Minneapolis actually is not the capital city of Minnesota. St. Paul is the capital city, but the two cities are connected by the Mississippi River, which you can see in that top picture. So we refer to them as the Twin Cities. So they're technically two cities, but people would say they're from the Twin Cities. I happen to be from the Twin Cities and love that part of the state very much. Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lakes because we literally have over 10,000 lakes in our state. So it's a very flat state, much flatter than the Czech Republic, but we do have 10,000 lakes. So outdoor recreation is a really big part of our culture. It's how we spend a lot of our time in the winter and in the summer. I've included the average temperatures of August and January to show you the range of weather that you would experience if you lived in Minnesota. So in the winter, it's a lot of skiing and ice hockey and various outdoor snow, cross-country skiing as well is very popular. And then in the summer with all of our lakes, you spend a lot of time boating and water skiing. You can wakeboard on Minnesota lakes. Fishing is a popular culture. All things outdoor recreation, winter and summer. You get a big range of things. More on things that are popular in Minnesota are professional sports teams. I know the students I teach in Děčín have lots of questions about our sports teams, so I thought I'd include them. We have the Minnesota Wild is our NHL team, Minnesota Vikings, our football team, and the Twins are our baseball team. I've also included pictures of some skiing in Minnesota. I think I have not skied in the Czech Republic yet, but based off of what I've heard from people, I think we probably have very similar skiing experiences between our two homes. And then the bottom picture is Lake Bede-Makaska, but it's a lake in Minneapolis. It was one of my favorite places to hang out growing up. And you can see people just go and tan and swim and spend time outdoors when it's warm enough in the summer to be outdoors.
That's great. That looks amazing. And I can really relate the pictures to the Czech Republic because, as you mentioned, the temperatures, it kind of resonates what we have here and what we can experience here. So it wouldn't be such a shock for Czech students to go to Minnesota.
Yes, absolutely. Still get all four seasons. Very similarly to the Czech Republic, people spend a lot of time outdoors in nature. So you get a little taste of home in Minnesota. But so I'll talk to you about three different schools in the state. The first one I'm going to talk to is the University of Minnesota, the U of M, as we would call it. It's located in the Twin Cities. It's the only school I'll show you that's actually in the Twin Cities, but there are other colleges and universities in the city. So if being in an urban area or in a city is really important to you, there are other colleges, but this is the largest and the main one people go to. So I thought I'd share this. It is located in Minneapolis. It has over 30,000 undergrad students. So it's a really large school. It's also large. I can attest because I grew up very close to there. It's also geographically a very large campus. So you should expect to take buses to classes. You build in lots of time to get to classes, and you can live 20, 30 minutes away from somebody else who's on the same campus. It's in a very urban area that's also full of office buildings and people just living in Minneapolis. So it's very integrated into the Twin Cities. And with that being said, they have over 6,000 international students. So I thought I'd include that because I know being abroad here, having the Fulbright cohort of 30 Americans is a really helpful support system to have people going through a similar experience. So it's good to know how many international students would also be at your college. And they have over 300 areas of study. So basically any major that you're really interested in, there is some field area major offered at the University of Minnesota. You can also see in the bottom right, sports are a very popular thing on their campus. They are a Division I school in the Big Ten Conference. So they play schools like the University of Wisconsin, University of Iowa. They play Oregon, USC, so a school in California and Los Angeles. They are now in the conference. So Minnesota is located in the Midwest, but their conference is all over the United States. And it's a very active student life campus. Like I said, grew up very close to there. I didn't go there, but I spent a lot of time there in high school, and it is also a very fun campus to be on.
Well, speaking for international students, I would be interested, flying from the Czech Republic to Minnesota. Is there any airport close by, international airport?
Yes. So MSP, or Minneapolis St. Paul, is the international airport in Minnesota. And of the schools I'm showing you today, this is for sure the closest. I would assume that there are shuttles to the campus. If there are not shuttles, you're close enough that an Uber or a Lyft would be accessible and not absurdly expensive. Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. So the other school, this is the school I went to. So I have a little bit of a bias because I went there and loved it and had a fantastic experience. But I will try to present it as objectively as I can. So the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University historically were actually a all women's college and an all men's college, St. Ben's being for women, St. John's being for men. Now they're integrated schools. So the only thing that's actually separated is there are all female dorms, all male dorms, but your classes are together, you eat together, you graduate from both schools, you get basically a typical college experience, but if you're wondering why there are two names, that's why there are two names.
It can be a little confusing, like if it's St. Benedict or St. John's. So, but thank you for explaining. It makes sense. Yeah,
for sure. So in comparison to the University of Minnesota, a few things. First, it's a much smaller school. You can see we have 3,300 undergrad students. Geographically located, it's about an hour and a half away from the Twin Cities. So when you ask like the airport question, it is a consideration to think about that it's a bit more difficult to access from the closest airport. That being said, you can see we have 3.4% of international students, and many of those students, we have a sister school in the Bahamas. So a lot of those students are Bahamian. And I had close friends in college who were Bahamian, and there is a shuttle that goes from our school to the airport on breaks. So if you're going home for the holiday break or for spring break, the shuttles are accessible then. Outside of that, I will say it's a bit of a difficulty to get back and forth because we are in more of a rural area. You can see the aerial view of the campus. We're in a really beautiful part of Minnesota. Like, it is full of lakes. There are 6 lakes on our campus alone. So if you are somebody who loves to be outdoors and go hiking and canoeing and kayaking and then skating and skiing in the winter, it's a great place to be. But it is a consideration to understand you're kind of far from the Twin Cities. We're a liberal arts university. That's a difference between the University of Minnesota and St. Ben's and St. John's. So there's
maybe if you can explain it to Czech students, we do not have liberal arts universities in the Czech Republic. So if you can explain more for them, what does it mean? It would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have over 60 areas of study, but so when you go to school, I'm sorry, when you go to school, you'll have a major, something that you'll focus on, and you'll graduate with a degree in that major. So for instance, I majored in political science. So the majority of classes I took were in the political science area. However, because it's a liberal arts school, what that means is they believe that a holistic education, you take classes in every area of study. So I was a political science student, and like I said, most of my classes were political, but I also took classes in the arts and in English and in science and economics and anthropology and all of these different fields of study, because the belief is that if you want to be educated in one area, everything is so interconnected that you have to have a basic understanding in other areas as well.
And that is great. I really feel that this is like a school of life, when you get not only the major that you're studying, but also other knowledge that's really important for your future life and experience. Great. Yeah. Awesome.
And I would absolutely advocate for it. And I think one of the goals of our school is to make you not only a political science student, but just like a lifelong learner. And I think that approach to studying definitely accomplished that. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a smaller population of international students, so that is something to consider. But I would say our school has a very international focus. So while it's a smaller population of international students, 62% of students study abroad for at least a semester-long program, which is somewhat significant of the size of population of students. So there is an international focus and interest. And it's a global education, but a smaller percentage of international students. Another big difference between a school like the University of Minnesota and a school like St. Ben's and St. John's is the faculty ratio. So it's 11-1. So it's the type of school you call your professor by their first name. They will know your name. They'll definitely know that you're from the Czech Republic. And especially within your major, you get to know them really well. And they were huge resources and advocates for me as I went through college, and still I keep in touch with many of them. One of them is actually how I ended up in Fulbright. He recommended it to me and helped me with that when I was.
That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing, because I experienced these like big auditoriums where we were just listening, but this 11-1 means for Czech students, 11 students to one teacher, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, you get a lot of chances to speak to your professor, which is amazing that you get the attention you need. And especially when I studied in the US, I really needed it in the beginning to understand all the, essay writing processes and so forth. So this is great that he or she actually has got the time for you.
Definitely. It was something I didn't consider as much when I went to school, but once I was there, it was actually one of the highlights of going to a school like that for me. So then the last school I'll show you is Carleton College. So Carleton, in comparison to St. Ben's and St. John's in the University of Minnesota, is far more similar to St. Ben's and St. John's. But I chose this because I knew that they had a higher percentage of international students. So you can see they have about 2,000 total undergrad students, 10% of which are international students representing 46 different countries. And I did not go to Carleton, honestly, and I had friends who went to Carleton but didn't know a lot. But I had known previously that they had a reputation of hosting a lot of international students, meaning they also have really institutionalized support systems for international students. So I think in my mind, if I theoretically was a Czech student looking at a college in Minnesota, this would be close to the top of my list for that reason. But it is a smaller school, and it's in a smaller town called Northfield, Minnesota, which is about an hour away from the Twin Cities. But like I said, because they have a high population of international students, it is more accessible to get to the airport and back, or go to the Twin Cities for a weekend. They're also a liberal arts school, and they have 33 majors. Similarly to St. Ben's and St. John's, they have another small faculty ratio. They have an 8-1 ratio. So you definitely will know your professors very well. And And another thing to consider is they have a higher emphasis on STEM majors, so science, technology, engineering, and math. So 60% of their students fall into one of those majors. So if you are interested in any of those areas, this will be a really supportive school for you there.
And this is amazing. I would just like to add that students from the Czech Republic, they usually ask me, what after when I finish my education? So here, when you are in a STEM major, you can get up to 2 years of OPT, which is optional practical training, meaning you can stay 2 more extra years in the United States working in the field that you study. But that only applies to STEM majors. So if you are looking into science, technology, engineering, and math, and you are potentially looking into, staying for work in the United States, the STEM major and this Carleton College would allow you to, after studying 4 years for your bachelor's degree, to spend 2 more years working in the STEM field.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I can attest, Northfield is also a very cute town. One of my roommates was from Northfield, and while it's probably a little bit less outdoorsy than where St. Ben's and St. John's is, it's definitely smaller than where the University of Minnesota is. It's a very cute kind of boutique town with small locally owned shops and restaurants and lots of cafes. It's a very walkable town. So I can attest Northfield would be a really lovely place to be living too.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. So those are the 3 schools that I thought would be highest on the list in my mind where to be in Minnesota.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. If you do have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me through the email advisor@fulbright.cz, or feel free to connect through social media under the handle EducationUSA Czech. If you have more questions for Regan, please let me know and I'll be happy to forward them. And again, thank you for joining us and have a great day.